Hi everyone, we're here in the beautiful Malibu, California with none other than Vinnie Tortorich, who is the West Coast blogger and best-selling author of Fitness Confidential, right?
Yeah.
So we're, myself and Dr. Gerber, are delighted to be here and actually get a chance to talk to Vinnie one-on-one or two-on-one, whatever. So we might just start off with your background, and you've a long career in this whole low-carb and fitness business.
Yeah, I've been doing fitness for 37 years, which is a long time.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've been in this business since college, just kind of an interesting run. Most of the time it's been dealing with weight loss. That's all people have ever been concerned with. But you can imagine in the early 1980s, we didn't have much of a problem with weight. When I came out to California, Southern California from Louisiana, in 1991, I had a mission. I noticed that childhood obesity was on the rise, and I went into the Nickelodeon and Disney were the only two places at the time that even had children's programming. It wasn't like it is today where you have 1,000 channels. You know, you basically had the three big channels: NBC, CBS, ABC, and then you had a couple of cable channels, and only two of them dealt with childhood fitness and or childhood programming. And I walked in, and I'll never forget these meetings. I thought that I was going to blow the world apart in 1991, and I walked in and said to Disney, I said, "Hey, I've noticed that childhood obesity is on the rise, and we need to do something." And they said, "We agree, we agree. What would you say we do, Vinny?" And I said, "Okay, we need to get rid of sugars and grains." And they literally laughed me out of the office. And I tried to curtail my speech a little bit when I went to Nickelodeon, and I got laughed out of the office again. And I realized at that moment that it was an uphill battle that I wasn't going to win, because they weren't willing to tell their people not to eat Kellogg's and, Fruit Loops and, fruit roll-ups and Snickers bars, because that's all they sold.
Big sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. So I realized right from day one that I couldn't win that game. So I didn't try. I just went into private business. Every now and then I would try to get on the radio and do things like that, because I did have a popular radio show in New Orleans called Talking Fitness. And whenever I tried to do radio in LA, they basically said, "You don't have a voice for radio. You sound like an idiot." They literally said I sounded like a jock.
Right.
And I said, "But you do realize I'm a jock, right? I mean,
What's wrong with that?
do you guys get that part of it?" It's like, yeah, but you don't have they call it a face for radio. I didn't have a voice for radio. And so I just worked with my clients. Before long, I was training celebrities, and I kind of got known for that, taking weight off of ingenues for movies and TV shows and all that. And that kind of puts you in the forefront in Hollywood whenever you're doing that kind of stuff. And
Celebrity stuff.
yeah, let's face it, celebrity drives everything in this world. And
in the US,
I learned that powerful lesson around 92 or 93. They were trying to bring an Asian comedian to a sitcom to make it the first sitcom that starred an Asian. And it was this girl, Margaret Cho. And I talk about it in Fitness Confidential as the opening story in that book, where they said, she's funny, but she doesn't look good on television. We need to get some weight off of her. And they called me in, and I took 35 pounds off of her in no time, using no sugars and no grains.
Excellent.
And then they said, "She's not thin enough." So they gave me another 5 or 6 weeks, and I took another 20. So all in all, she lost about 60 pounds.
Wow, that's a lot.
Next thing you know, she's on Arsenio Hall, she's on a Tonight Show, she's on Letterman, because the show is getting ready to start. And my name is on her lips, my name is on Letterman's lips, my name is on Jay Leno's lips. And I realized the power of celebrity at that moment. It's like, wow, my life changed overnight in Hollywood. I mean, every agent had me on the phone. Get that guy, we need that guy. They didn't care how the sausage was packed. Just we don't care how this guy's doing this. And I'll never forget, I would go in and take people off of sugars and grains, and they thought I was going to literally kill them.
Wow. Back in
Yeah.
the day, they actually thought that was
Yeah, it's like, well, this is
radical.
not heart healthy. My heart's going to pop, but you got to remember, people will do anything to be on television, and they were taking that kind of quote unquote chance with me, right? So I didn't mean to hog the beginning part of your show, but you asked, and
No, go
I
for
kinda
it.
went
This-
off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I realized the power of media and what it can do. And
Where did you get this idea that no sugar, no grain was a good thing to do?
I did the opposite of what we did in football to gain weight. You know, I played college football. I had some inklings from my professors. I went to Tulane University, which is generally known as a medical hospital. It's not a university. And in order to get a physical education degree, they literally lumped me in with the pre-meds. So I was the only athlete that actually got a physical education degree because no one else wanted to go through pre-med to get a PE degree.
Yeah.
So on top of getting my teaching certificate, I had to do this. And I'll never forget, I was in I want to say it wasn't gross anatomy, it was a biology class. It was human biology or something. And the professor said that our bodies need fat to live. Fat is what our bodies use. That's the preferred source of energy.
It's essential nutrient. Yeah.
Right. So a very young Vinnie wrote down, fat is what we need. Okay, great. And some time passed, maybe a week passed, and the same professor was talking about movement and energy, and he said that in order to have energy, your body prefers to run on sugar. So I raised my hand, and the whole class did one of these collective sighs, because you know, as being a doctor, Jeff, that doctors just want to get through pre-med as quickly as possible to get into med school. They just want to ace every test and get into the best med school possible. They weren't interested in how the sausage was cooked.
Just getting the right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
I was interested in that.
Yeah.
And I would raise my hand and the whole class would just go, oh geez, here we go again. This Cajun Italian kid from the swamp. What is he doing? What is he doing? And I was like, Professor, I have here, and I'm flipping back in my notes because I was a crazy note taker. I'm like, you said on the 24th, I'm making up that date, by the way.
Oh,
You
yeah.
said on the 24th that fat is our body's preferred fuel. You said that. Now it's sugar? He goes, yeah, if you're going to move, you need sugar. But if you're not going to move, you need, fat is the preferred fuel and the whole thing. Your brain needs sugar, he kept saying. And your brain can't live without sugar. So I went, okay, this is confusing, but I'll write this down too, because obviously he's going to put this on the test. And that was the beginning of me going down rabbit holes. There was no Google, there was no internet, there was no nothing. But it's like, well, we need fat to live, right? Yet I didn't understand it. And I got to be perfectly honest, working with athletes for all those years, working with marathoners, and triathlon was coming into its own, and Power Bar came out with a bar, and then you had Gatorade saying you need the Gatorade. I bought in. If you want to move, you have to have this stuff.
The sugar.
The sugar.
Right.
Sugar
So-
for athletes.
Sugar for athletes, for everyone else who needs to lose weight, I'm going to keep you on high fat. And I was messing around with that, and that was back then. I was just trying to earn a living by making people thin, and keeping them off of pasta was how I was doing it.
Yes.
I even bought in. This is interesting. They would say, well, can we have anything sweet? I say, yeah, you put sugar in your coffee. There's no fat in sugar. You could do that, but just stay away from pasta and stay away from bread, because
The starches, the grains, all that
we
crap.
knew. I mean, if you read back to ancient history, the gladiators, we think of gladiators as being like in a movie 300, where they're ripped up. But you guys may or may not know this, but back in the real gladiator days, they didn't have steroids. They couldn't look like the actors on television today.
Oh, it was steroids all
Right.
along.
They couldn't, those guys couldn't get ripped up like in the movies we see today. The actual gladiators would try to put on a layer of fat so that when they were in the ring, they were big time athletes. They didn't want the knives to go through and cut
The muscle.
muscle.
the muscle.
Yeah.
They wanted to use fat as a guard.
Yeah,
The way they did that was by eating grains. So, I mean, that's in history. We know that. Yet we somehow bypass that and go on to everything else.
I think the 1950s was where everything fell apart. America was a leader and began to focus on this low-fat Ansel Keys stuff. But you're right, for hundreds of years, our grandparents and before knew to put on weight you eat starchy grains.
Right.
And to lose weight you drop sweet things and you drop starchy grains.
Right.
But in the 50s in America, all this new science came out, or began, yeah.
Well, Jeff, you probably know this better than me. It wasn't, in the 50s, you know, we had one man who had one heart attack.
Yeah.
Just so happens he was the President of the United States. We all know the story oh so well. So we set out to try to figure out how he had a heart attack. You know, the leader of the free world had a heart attack. What are we going to do? Well, we start looking around, and you know, Yudkin was yelling about, oh yeah, we need more fat for you. Fat is heart healthy, and
lower sugar.
And sugar's bad.
Sugar's bad. Yudkin, what was the book called? Sugar something?
Pure White and Deadly.
Yeah,
from
Pure
Professor
White and
Yudkin, John Yudkin.
Yeah,
from Europe.
Yeah, and that was part of the problem, was that the United States back then was more of a stronghold of what was being put in media. And Ansel Keys knew that. The guy knew how to sell. He was a salesman.
He was PR guy, yeah, he knew.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He knew he could beat up on John Yudkin. And once America was behind this guy, once the United States put a label on it, and let's face it, and I have no proof of this whatsoever, but since the first Great Depression, the one in the 1930s.
Oh yeah, the big one, yeah.
We had a problem because we were based on farming. And we had a lot of wheat and grain, and this country was based on that. And you may remember this from the last Great Depression when we had to bail out some of the companies, some of the car companies. What did we say? GM is too big to fail. We have to bail them out, right? Well, guess what we were saying in the 1920s and 30s when we had the last Great Depression? Big Farm was too big to fail. We didn't call it Big Farm. That's something we came about.
Yeah.
They're too big to fail. So the government got into subsidizing.
The farm bills.
Right. So what did the government figure out? Wait a minute. We're like the mafia here. We're in business now. So you cut to 1961, a year before I was born, and you got Yudkin yelling one thing, but you got Ansel Keys yelling something else, and the government's going, let's see.
Choices.
We make money on what?
Grain.
Grains. Yeah, grains.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
We'll support that.
It's a win-win. Let's go with this guy.
Right.
You know, so he had the support of the biggest financial power on the planet.
Yeah, right behind him.
Right? How do you fail? You can't fail.
Yeah.
But then the craziest thing I've ever seen happened around 1985, right? Right after Snackwells and all this crap comes out. Hey, it doesn't have fat. People looked at a pack. You remember Snackwells? Did you guys get that over in Ireland?
I remember the name. I don't think it was popular, but...
Oh, Ivor, let me clue you in, buddy. The idea was the whole package of cookies, they had devil food cookies. Remember those? Yeah. The whole package only had 600 calories because we're all about calories, right?
And low fat.
No, not low fat.
No.
No fat.
No fat at all.
And what did we learn in life? When you take all the fat out, what do you have to put extra in?
Sugar and carbs.
Yeah.
Sugar to make it palatable.
Yeah. And what did we do as Americans? We go, hey, it's only 600 calories. I'm going to eat this whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
I am going to wipe this out. By the time Happy Days is over with, by the time I'm done watching MASH, I will demolish these cookies, right?
And they have this false sense of security. They've been told fat's the problem. This is low calorie, low fat. The whole packet is only a quarter of my daily calories. Even the whole packet. So
Eat up.
Eat up.
Eat up.